HB, I've got a song.
Yeah.
Save the whales with nuclear vessels. Save the whales. Double dumbass on you. Save the whales. Put away your butcher knives. Now you have to the end of the program to compose a backbeat.
I don't know. That might work better a cappella.
I took too much LDS. Oh, hey, welcome, Midnight Viewers. This is my show. I'm supposed to take over here. Welcome, Midnight Viewers, back to Trek Fest. We've reached the most popular film in the entire run of Star Trek up until the J.J. Abrams afterbirth. This is Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, and here to talk about it with me, the one who does all the fests with me, even though he claims to not, is HP.
I love it. Not only do I love the fests, Father Malone, I love Italian, and so do you.
Yes. Oh, I should have sung that part. How Spock hates Italian food, because he says no the entire time.
He does, but he never gets, well, we'll talk about it, but he never gets to eat Italian food.
That's right, because they fucking just unceremoniously drop him off. We'll get there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about Star Trek IV.
Avoid the planet Earth at all costs. We are under the attack of an orbiting probe.
Notify all stations. Starfleet emergency, red alert.
Earth is on the edge of destruction.
We cannot survive unless a way can be found to respond to the probe.
The key to saving the future
Spock, you're talking about the end of every life on Earth.
can be found only in the past.
We're going to attempt time travel. Sulu, take us home.
These are the voyages of the crew of the Starship Enterprise.
Judging by the pollution content of the atmosphere, I believe we have arrived at the latter half of the 20th century.
Stardate 1986.
San Francisco. Our own world is waiting for us to save it.
They have 24 hours
Everybody remember where we parked. Break up.
to complete their mission.
You look like a cadet review.
We will beam in tonight, collect the photons, and beam out.
I want you all to be very careful.
Without being discovered.
We have an intruder.
All right, who are you?
You're not exactly catching us at our best.
That much is certain.
This is an extremely primitive and paranoid culture.
What does it mean, exact change?
Many of their customs will doubtless take us by surprise.
We're ready for beam out.
My transporter power is down to minimum. I got to bring you in one at a time.
You're from outer space.
No, I'm from Iowa. I only work in outer space. Let's do our job and get out of here.
Freeze! Chekhov, can you hear me? Freeze! I've lost it.
Who are you? Admiral Kirk! I'm coming with you.
You can't. Our next stop is the 23rd century.
Full power now, sir.
Shields at maximum.
Steady. Hold on tight, lassie.
Can we make breakaway speed?
That's all I can give you.
Book 8. 8. Good. 1. Book 9.
Now.
Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home.
Star Trek IV. Oh, there was the trailer. Boy, that sounds fun, didn't it? Directed by Leonard Nimoy, screenplay by Steve Mearson, Peter Krikes, Nicholas Meyer, and Harve Bennett, based on a story by Harve Bennett and Leonard Nimoy, based on Star Trek by Gene Roddenberry. We have a new composer here, Leonard Rosenman, television extraordinaire.
Did you say?
Yeah, Rosenman.
That sounds like a fake name from the movie Fletch, doesn't it? Rosenman?
It sounds like any fake Chevy name. It's always just, it trails off into gibberish. Rosenman. Yeah, okay. Thanks, Chevy. 30 years of that bullshit. Released on November the 26th, Thanksgiving, 1986. Budget of $21 million, pulled in $133. Now, the production story for this one is actually pretty quick. The other ones, they struggled here and there to get them made. This was a no-brainer. Paramount Pictures basically had a green light for Star Trek IV before the end of opening weekend of Star Trek III. Now they basically just handed it to Leonard Nimoy and said, what do you want to do? So Leonard Nimoy and Harve Bennett get together. Leonard Nimoy doesn't want phasers. He doesn't want a villain. He doesn't want fist fights. He wants it to be a traditional Star Trek story where it's a little more thoughtful and a little less violent and dark, which is what we've gotten for the past two. Should be noted, Paramount Pictures, on the other hand, felt exactly the opposite. They thought it should go even darker, and I might not disagree with them. Okay, so Harve Bennett hires those two screenwriters I mentioned, Steve Mearson and Peter Krikes. They turn in their first draft of the screenplay, an entirely different screenplay, it should be noted, because at that time, Paramount Pictures also had the number one star in the world, who was also a large Star Trek fan. That was Beverly Hills Cop's own Eddie Murphy. So that first script was written with Eddie Murphy in mind. There's no Catherine Hicks character. That instead was going to be Eddie Murphy as a cetacean scientist who is also a ufologist. He's a UFO nut. So he's the perfect person to make contact with the Enterprise. And then they hand in that script, and Eddie Murphy reads it and says, I thought I was going to be in Starfleet. Pass. I'm going to go do the Golden Child. At which point Harv Bennett, it's true. At which point Harv Bennett calls Nicholas Meyer and says, please help us. And they basically split the script up into portions where Harv Bennett is working on the 23rd century parts, and Nicholas Meyer, who is very familiar with San Francisco, having set his film Time After Time there, takes care of all of the 1986 present contemporary day stuff. And in fact, because he had done Time After Time, he got to reuse use for the first time some bits that he had written for that movie. So they end up showing up here, including the punk. But anyway.
One of the things I loved, because I read a little bit of trivia around this, we just talked about it. The thing about Eddie Murphy, that draft, apparently he saw the Klingon ship decloaking during the Super Bowl, which there's something about that. I think that would have been a really very interesting sort of shot. I like the idea that it's somebody who's a ufologist that nobody believes, but it's not an alien coming to destroy the planet. It's actually a friendly sort of thing. So a part of me wishes I could see that Eddie Murphy version of this, but there's no way Eddie Murphy in a Starfleet uniform could have worked at all.
Yeah, but he could have been an alien. And they could have made him a big old villain. And I bet he would have gone for that. And I bet he would have pulled that off. However, the thing about having him be the ufologist who discovers them and no one believes him, I agree. I think that would have been a great movie as well, if that had been told entirely from that character's perspective. If he was just this human on Earth, and then one day the fucking Enterprise crew shows up, and then they fill him in on what's going on. But that's not the movie they're going to make. That would be an Eddie Murphy movie, and that was the only movie he was going to make, really.
Yeah. You can't, at that time, like you said, he was the biggest box office star in the world. So you can't, anytime you have him in a movie, it becomes an Eddie Murphy movie just by dint of the fact that he's in it.
Yeah, he ain't going to take 3 scenes and play second fiddle to Shatner.
No, absolutely not.
So before the movie goes into production, Michael Eisner and Jeff Katzenberg go on over to Walt Disney and take over Walt Disney. So they've got a new producer here, or a new studio head, who in fact wants the lighter, happier movie. So that sort of seals that deal. Nicholas Meyer comes in, like I said, he does the big rewrite, and then it's just a fucking go. I mean, there's no real hassle here. There's no nothing. They get to do location shooting. They don't question Nimoy on any of his choices for any of the actors involved.
There was one, this doesn't count as controversy, but from what I understand, Shatner was supposed to direct this picture because Shatner and Nimoy had what I guess is called a favored nations clause in their contracts. Nimoy had just directed Search for Spock. It was natural to assume that Shatner was going to be direct because he wanted to direct. He was going to direct the 4th one. However, he was too busy with T.J. Hooker at the time. It seems silly even just saying those words. But fortunately for us, the movie-going public, Nimoy directed this because this is, we'll talk about it, but I love his direction here. I think he was perfect.
Well, I agree with you about the direction, but I do think that had Shatner directed the script that Nicholas Meyer wrote with these folk, I think it still could have been a very good movie. I think it would have been a little hammier, but I think that could have been a good film. And I do know that, as you said, and Shatner kind of held out here, and part of it was pissy because he wasn't going to get to direct it, but part of it was he didn't appreciate the fact that they were going to go lighter with it, with the tone of this film. He, like the original studio heads, thought that this should be much darker because Kirk had gone through so goddamn much and hadn't dealt with any of it yet, and thought that The character deserved that. And then they said, we'll give you twice what we gave you last time. And he said, I'm once again Captain Kirk.
Reporting for duty, sir.
HB, what's the story here?
Well, the story is an interesting one, actually. It's not the first time that they've gone back in time, but what happens is there's a probe, a mysterious probe. Now, this shades of the motion picture. It's very much in line with that picture. There's a probe, an alien probe headed to Earth that basically disables every ship in Starbase and everything in its path, renders them completely without power. And it's headed to Earth. No one knows why or where or how. They figure out that it gets to Earth and it starts all these cataclysmic changes. And they figure out, Kirk, and actually Spock is the one who figures out that it's actually trying to signal humpback whales on the planet. We don't know why. We don't know what the message is. But because humpback whales have been hunted into extinction in the late 20th century, I believe, or 21st century, there's no way for this probe to get the response that it needs. So Earth is imperiled. It's up to the Enterprise, the crew of the Enterprise on this stolen Klingon ship to go back in time, retrieve humpback whales, and take them back to Earth in future time in order to stave off this apocalypse.
It's a great story. It's perfectly Star Trek.
It works. As much as this is, like I said, shades of the motion picture, the story and what they do with the premise is, forgive the pun, it's light years better than the motion picture for a litany of reasons that I'm sure we'll talk about. But I love it. I think it's to the point. It took me, 30 seconds to describe the events of the movie? That's literally the plot of the movie. Now, the fun is getting into the details. But yeah, it's economical. It moves.
Now, our opening scene, you mentioned that we get the probe, which looks like a Monster Energy drink can.
A cigar hurtling through space.
A cylinder and a sphere. This movie is all about geometry. It's on the way. The first ship it encounters is the Saratoga, which is basically, it's just the Reliant again. They just reuse the Reliant model, which is fine because starships have classes.
Sure. By the way, I like the design of the alien probe because it's mysterious. It doesn't hold with any traditional logic for starships or spacecraft in the future. You don't know what it is, what the little ball that's kind of hovering in front of it does. It's scary to see it and the things that it can do. I love that part of it.
I do too. It's V'ger done right. Where V'ger was just this amorphous thing, this cloudy nebula of nothingness. Here's an object. It's on its way. It's passing your ship and knocking out all the power. Oh, but I wanted to point out the captain of that particular ship, the first female Federation starship captain to appear in any Star Trek, should be noted. Also, she's an African American. She is also Geordie LaForge's mom.
I was reading that. She appeared in The Next Generation.
She's the queen in Coming to America.
Oh, that's the voice. Of course. Interesting Eddie Murphy tie-in there.
Yeah, right.
Small world.
Did he already do that? No, he hadn't done Coming to America by then. No,
that was after another couple of years.
Yeah. I was working in a movie theater that played Coming to America. I've seen it 1 million times.
I see this. You didn't ask me your usual question is, HP, when did you see this? This is the first time you saw this movie? No, in fact, it wasn't Father Malone. I saw this in the theater. This was a big picture. I enjoyed Star Trek at the time, but I can't say that I was in any way a Trekker or obsessed with it. But this was a really popular movie. And this was a time when I was really starting to become a real moviegoer. 86 was Predator, The Untouchables, this movie. So I was going to a lot of movies. So I saw this one in the theater as well, and saw Coming to America, come to think of it.
I also saw this movie in the theater, obviously. I was fucking totally obsessed with Star Trek. So, of course, I was good. And I loved it. And I saw it a bunch of times. And then I snuck in a whole bunch more. Bought the novelization, read the novelization. Novelization's right here. I've read it again this weekend. I just want to mention HP. I mentioned over on my show, the weekly roundup that I've been watching.
I heard it. And
Strange New Worlds lately.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say, should I address you as Ensign?
Yeah, no, I'm not necessarily. honestly talking about my time on board a starship. I explained it pretty well in the thing. It was basically like D&D.
Yeah, check
I
out.
will say that
more
one
information.
time I was 14 when I was on board the Farragut, and one of the guys in the group whose nickname was Doc because his first two initials were DR, which I thought was fun. And Doc was like early 20s. He and I went to fucking Rhode Island to go to a Star Trek convention because Denise Crosby was going to be. And so we went, and then afterwards we went to like a Farragut meeting, and it was like 9:00, and I had been dropped off to go to this at like 7 a.m. by my mom, and it was like 9:00, and I was like, oh, let me call home. And my mother was like, where the fuck are you? And that was
some weird dude. Yeah.
And that was the end of my time with the Farragut. But the convention was awesome. And that is where I got a copy of Cavalier magazine that had Weeds, the short story that The Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill is based on.
Oh, yeah, because King wrote for a lot of those skin mags. That's right.
Yeah.
By the way, so for those maybe in the dark a little bit, I recommend you check out the weekly roundup where Father Malone covers Strange New Worlds. It'll explain a lot of what we just talked about. But for me, it makes a lot of sense, the fact that so Father Malone had a long wool, sort of a pea coat that he wore in high school, and he had a row of buttons up and down each lapel. He used to have, one of the buttons was a Federation communicator, like
a Delta badge. It's a Delta badge.
Okay. Now, I knew that he was a fan of Next Generation, of course, but it makes a lot more sense knowing this shadow history that he has with the Farragut. Interesting. We've known each other for going on 40 years now almost, and I never knew this about you.
Yeah, well, it's not something I like advertised. I used to
Sure.
Anyway, but I love Star
Anyway.
Trek. Yeah, so
we love it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that was my story about that. Let's get back into this. Let's get into the story here because, oh man.
It's great. So we're talking about the Saratoga. The female captain is the first ship where we see the probe in action. It basically disables all of the electronics on the ship.
But not all of them.
It's dead in the water. What do you mean?
Because they still have power. They still have, their screens are still fuzzy. They still have red lights. They still have life support.
Yeah, but we don't see, there might have been more to it. All those things might have gone down after the fact.
I assume they did. I assume all those people are now dead, unfortunately.
Yeah, because there's shots in the movie.
You know what that means, HP? Free Saratoga for whoever's taken.
You see, at times, you see the probe cross past like a starbase, and you can see all of the lights on the starbase winking out one after the other. So you know that this thing is going to just wreak havoc on Earth. It's headed straight for Earth.
But we're not going to Earth. We're going to Vulcan.
We're going back to Vulcan, baby. So it picks up, 3 months since the events of Star Trek 3?
That's it. They've been there for 3 months. What's Maltz been doing?
I don't know. I was sort of thinking about that too. One thing that's interesting though.
If you don't know, Maltz is the Klingon that ended up a prisoner on their ship at the end of the last one that they then took with them to Vulcan. And now it's 3 months later. There's still no word on Maltz. I really wish 3/4 of the way through this movie, he just popped up on the ship and went, can I do something? I feel like I'm just
here. Maybe I can swab the decks. What do you need me to do? He was known as the thinking Klingon, so I'm sure they would have had him in. Maybe he's an accountant somewhere. Maybe
he just should have been on the bridge, and so they could dispense with all of the "I don't understand Klingon" jokes.
Yeah, that is a little weird, but they do figure out enough about the ship to feel confident to take it back to Earth to face their charges, because they've all, what is it? How many charges do they have? 9 violations of Starfleet regulations. So the crew has to go back with Kirk and face the charges. So they're getting ready to leave Vulcan. Meanwhile, Spock is still not fully recovered from the events of Star Trek 3. He's fully logical, but he's having trouble with surfacing the emotions that he does have. But his training has been exclusively in the Vulcan ways and not really dealing with his human side.
Well, 2 things. The crew all decides as a unit that they're going to go back and face those charges. And I would say as the fully capable crew of the Starship Enterprise that it's time for them to get aboard that ship and just go fucking off around the galaxy. See ya, Starfleet. Try and catch us in a cloaked Klingon bird of prey.
Do you think they should just become mercenaries?
This is the crew of the HMS Bounty. We'll be boarding. Space pirates.
That would have been a very different movie, actually.
Okay, I'm going to branch out here nerdy-wise and just make a recommendation. If anyone is a comic book reader and you've read any of the Star Trek comics, I highly encourage you to check out a series out there right now called Star Trek: The Last Starship, where they resurrect Kirk. The Borg resurrects Kirk and it takes place 10,000 years after the current Star Trek. It takes place basically in the Discovery universe after the burn, when all the ship's warp cores are no longer working and the Federation is shattered. So it's the first post-apocalyptic Star Trek story, but not without zombies or anything. And basically, Kirk is tasked on his new ship, the Omega, with letting the world know that, or letting the galaxy know that the Federation still exists. He's basically like supposed to be this torchbearer going to all these dark parts of the galaxy to let them know that we still exist and we can still join the Federation and we can do this again together. It's pretty fucking great.
Sounds like The Postman.
Yeah, but like if the Postman was really good and you cared about any of the characters and you enjoyed the visuals.
That's fair. I'm going to check it out. I too not only do I love Trek, but I love comics. So I'll check that out.
So we get to Spock and his super duper SAT machine attack.
Good call.
Where he's got rapid fire 3 computers yelling questions at him and he's answering very efficiently and economically until it asks him how he feels. And I got to tell you, HP, if my computer asked me how I felt, I'd probably pause as well and wonder what happened and where I was, because a second ago I was answering questions about electrons and who the main philosopher on Vulcan was at the start, and now it wants to know how I'm doing. I know that you need to know that. And
it does flummox him though. And we get to see Jane Wyatt returning as his mother, and she kind of tries to comfort him and say, you are human, part human. Your feelings will surface. Let's just let it happen.
That should be the bridge for the song that I composed at the beginning. It should be, how do you feel?
How do you feel?
Yeah.
By the way, we've gotten this far. We didn't mention one of my favorite parts in all the Star Trek movies, TV shows, books, comics, whatever. We kind of skipped over this part, and I want to give credit where credit is due, Father Malone, because chronologically it happens before we see the crew and everything.
I thought we meet the crew first and then we go to the Earth, but you're right. This is the best part of the movie.
This is in the running. I'm always one for hyperbole. I say very often to my own annoyance, "Oh, this is my favorite thing. This may be my favorite in the whole movie." It's the movie starts after we see the probe introduced. The movie starts with this hearing at Starfleet. John Schuck, who we previously discussed as part of the Night Mr. Walters Taxi podcast, you go listen to that if you'd like. He is playing a Klingon ambassador, and he's pleading his case before the council for the arrest and extradition of Kirk for crimes related to everything that happened in Part 3, the destruction of the Klingon crew, the Genesis device, all of it. And words can't express how much I adore John Schuck in this. Now, we will get to Star Trek VI eventually, but there's an actor in that named Christopher Plummer who also plays a Klingon who has a penchant for oration and for sort of Shakespearean.
He undoes all of the goodwill John Schuck accumulates in just one scene in this movie.
John Schuck shows you this is how you do classical oration, because it's almost as if he's like a lawyer up there. I thought he was a lawyer at first. I didn't realize he was the ambassador, because he's demanding justice and he's gesticulating and we demand. It's so good. His part in the scene is maybe 3 minutes of screen time, but boy, does John Schuck make the very most out of that 3 minutes.
It's the best Klingon outfit with the tassels in the front and the cape on the back.
The tailoring is superb.
It's exquisite. It's one of the best outfits in all of Star Trek. It's clear that was constructed for the ambassador, that particular outfit. It's not just one of the Klingon warrior outfits that they've been reusing since the motion picture. Well,
it's nice because we've kind of gotten used to this idea that the Klingons are a warlike race of aliens. And here we have, it's almost like this Klingon went to Harvard to learn for law school. So he's Klingon, but he's very, like I said, very classical in his approach to speaking. And
he's like Hans Gruber. He went to Cambridge.
That's right. But the other part of this that I really is he's delivering this impassioned plea for Kirk. In walks Sarek,
your favorite character in all of Star Trek.
I love this. It's my favorite Klingon and my favorite Vulcan next to Spock, of course. And Sarek is pleading for the other side of things. He's there representing Kirk and Spock and the crew to kind of plead their case because they're still on Vulcan. And the two of them start to verbally spar a little bit.
HB.
Yes.
It's time for a shock off.
Okay. All right. I'll give it a try.
We both love John Shuck. You love him too. Here we go. Ready? Hit me with something. Hit me with some Shuck.
I might have to paraphrase some of this. Vulcans are well known as the intellectual puppets of the Federation.
I'm going to continue. I'm going to do his next line. We deny nothing. We have the right to preserve our race. Okay, listeners, I want you to let us know who won the Shuck off.
I already know Father Malone's going to win because he's a better mimic than I, but I'm going to sally forth here. Starfleet regulations? That's outrageous.
I don't have a follow-up.
We demand justice. Of course, I'll let you deliver the finest line that Shuck delivers, and you know which one I'm talking about.
His final it's the famous one. There shall be no peace as long as Kirk lives. And then he strides.
He just strides out his the little tassels. The tassels on his
tassels and cape, and John Shuck, and the best Klingon makeup, the best Klingon beard, the best Klingon outfit, the best Klingon.
He's fantastic. I wish he was in more of these episodes. I'm pretty sure he came back not as this character, but he's done other stuff for Star Trek TV shows and what have you.
He was on Enterprise. He was on Deep Space Nine.
I would have loved if they brought this character. I mean, I guess you can't do it on Next Generation because he would be old or dead by that point, but
they could have done it on Picard.
He's just so
he could
good.
Have done, you're saying, yes, he would have been old and dead by then. No, it's 75 years later. Yeah.
It would have to be the original series in some way, but so we lost the
opportunity. Could get him on, they could get him on Strange New Worlds and just make him up to look younger.
Hey, anyone listening who's got a hand in producing Strange New Worlds, look out for John Shuck. He's fantastic.
Is there an animated thing he could do? That would be awesome. That would solve all the problems. Let's get this character his own series, shall we?
Let's do something. John Shuck deserves it.
We love you, John Shuck.
That whole scene happens, and then we cut back to Vulcan. I couldn't let us proceed, Father Malone, without calling out one of the finest scenes in all of Star Trek movie history. I agree.
You know that there's a contingent of fans who don't like any of the 23rd century stuff and only prefer the 1986 stuff. And I say, you're crazy. I just wanted to stay here in the 23rd century, to be honest with you.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, I'm of the mind that Star Trek 4, as much as I love it, should not have been in this order. It should have been Star Trek 6. The Undiscovered Country should be here because that really does deal with the end of the story. This is just a coda to what happened with the Genesis device and Kirk and the Klingons and his son and that whole thing. That story wraps up in Undiscovered Country. So if it had been a real trilogy, then Undiscovered Country could have been here, and then the follow-up would be, and then they saved the world with whales, and it's a good time, and aren't we happy we're back to Star Trek?
See, I think the real outlier in all of this is clearly Star Trek V. The Final Frontier.
It doesn't deserve to be anything. It's just
that
it's this movie. What it is, it's Voyage Home mixed. No, it's actually motion picture mixed with Wrath of Khan. In fact, it's the same story that Harve Bennett initially pitched, which was this renegade who is causing a revolution, and he's going from planet to planet, and they have to go out and deal with him. And then they find out it's Marcus It's David Marcus as the revolutionary, and he's being puppeted by Khan. But we'll get to
cool.
that when we get to Star Trek V, obviously. I'm just saying, I like this movie, but I don't think it. If you want to serialize these things as they clearly did, then they should have dealt with the story and not just gone, hey, now we get to do what we want.
Sure. I still think that this is a good sort of respite from all of the heaviness of the first three movies, as you alluded to earlier. There's a lot going on there. In fact, I know one of Nimoy's stipulations for this picture would be that nobody dies.
Right.
Because I think in every single one of the movies up till now, we have a lot of character deaths. So I think it was refreshing at the time, and it's still refreshing to see this movie and the format changes from especially given that we're doing this fest, Father Malone. I'm looking at this in a very different light, and I really appreciate the change in tone.
There was one death in this. That was the death of my appreciation for Spock, because they kept doing these stupid idiom jokes throughout.
I didn't mind any of that.
I hate idiom jokes with Spock where he doesn't understand the phrase. Those are the worst. Spock is an educated and eloquent man and is half human and would understand the phrase, I couldn't fill your shoes.
Sure. But let me
those aren't funny. I don't know who thinks those jokes are funny.
Well, but let me ask you this then. This is probably a good segue into something that I wanted to get into. We haven't gotten into the meat of the story yet, but I'm just curious. What did you think of Nimoy's overall performance as Spock? Because I can tell you, I thought he's an absolute highlight for me. And given the fact that he had to divide himself between directing and acting in this, which I've never had to do, but I understand that a lot of actors find it very challenging. This is, I think, one of his best performances as Spock, because you get all of logic. There's an aloof quality to him that I think we lost a little bit along the way that he returns to here. And I think it's fabulous.
Well, I think it's difficult for me to say. Listen, I'm not knocking Leonard Nimoy in any way. I think he's great no matter what he's doing. I'm just saying the characterization of Spock here for me is askew, because the Spock that we get at the beginning is not really even Spock. And he's relearning who his friends are and such. It's just an odd thing to kind of get used to. Once he gets to 1986, he leans back into the Spock that we've known and loved from the television series. And then, yes, I think it's great from then on. But the early portions with Spock, and like the scene with McCoy that I'm referencing, the sort of, he's still not used to humans and human interaction. Like, I don't know, that just drives me up a fucking wall.
I didn't really.
The greatest example of that will be in Star Trek V. The life is not a dream, Dr. McCoy.
Yeah, I don't. We'll get to 5 when we get to it, and we'll get out of it when we get out of it, because we're going to get through. That may be the shortest episode of the fest that we have, Father Malone. But anyway, we're getting way ahead of ourselves.
We're going all the way with it. I got Shatner on the line.
Oh no! What have I gotten into? So yeah, anyway, I adore him in this. And I adore his direction, actually. As I'm watching this, I have so much respect for him. As the way the shots are composed, everything looks great. One thing that he does that I think I didn't pick up on until I watched this time is that rarely does he ever have the focus of the action in the middle of the screen. It's always slightly to the right or slightly to the left. There's always something interesting in the way the shot is composed with Nimoy, and I think he is and remains very underrated as a director. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think he was a photographer first and foremost.
Yeah,
and so he's used to making interesting compositions, and he's not an action director necessarily. But I do understand what you mean. If there's any business going on in the frame, it does tend to be left or right of center. And that's how he composes all of his shots. And more often than not, he's favoring the actors. And I think you get better performances out of everybody. And it's obviously Nimoy's influence here, where the script actually gives everyone something to do for fucking one.
Yeah. This may be one of the best scripts for that reason. I know it's not everybody's favorite Star Trek movie, but it's certainly the one. Like, for me, the best Star Trek movie is Star Trek II. I think we agree on that. But for me, this might be my favorite, just because of the way that it allows the crew of the Enterprise to have more to do to interact with each other. And they're in San Francisco in 86, and there's a lot of fish out of water stuff that they're dealing with. But they're all very funny. They're all very charming. And it points to the fact of the missed opportunities going back to the original series where these actors had nothing to do for one reason or another. I think we kind of know one of the big reasons why they had nothing to do. But that's Nimoy's influence, to your point, that makes all of this possible. And that's why I look at this movie maybe the fondest out of all of them.
I learned more about every single character from this series, from these movies, in this one movie, than in the entirety of everything that came before it. I didn't know Sulu was born in San Francisco. I didn't know Pavel Chekhov was longing to be an admiral.
Yeah.
I didn't know James T. Kirk was from Iowa. Actually, I did at that point. But you know what I'm saying? It wasn't sort of popularized. And I got to say about that, and we'll get there, obviously, but when James Kirk says, no, I'm from Iowa, that's just a setup for a punchline. But the fact that he said it grounded Star Trek for me in a way that is immeasurable. For some reason, hearing him say, I'm from Iowa, made it all the more real. I don't know what that phenomenon was, but it really hit home that James Kirk is just some guy from a state a few states over from us.
Well, it makes him feel less like this swashbuckling captain that we've seen. I'm not sure Shatner has ever been funnier or more charming in a movie than he is in. This movie is less about the naval battles, the fighting, the mano a mano. This is really a fish out of water type of picture for the most part. And it allows Shatner to bring his comedic tendencies to the fore. And I just think he's terrific in this. Agreed. In a way that I don't think he's really good in 2, obviously, and he's had moments in all of them. But I think as a whole, this might be my favorite of his Star Trek movie performance.
Yes, absolutely. But this is the first movie where we've had the characters kind of hang out. Everything has been plot up until this point, and everyone's been doing very serious things and saying very important things to one another. And this is the first time we can have Jim Kirk fucking joke around and say, well, don't you have any goddamn feelings?
He's great.
That's all I have
you say all you want about Shatner's hammy tendencies. You're not wrong, or anyone who says that, they're not wrong. But if he turns on the charm, he can turn on the charm and be very funny and very engaging when he wants to be. And he's all of those things here.
And he has a director who can deal with him.
Well, I think that's to his benefit that they have a history together. And I'm sure Nimoy is not going to tolerate any of Shatner's bullshit. So here's a guy who can actually stand up to Shatner and his demands. Because I'm sure with all the other pictures, I'm sure he had demands on how many lines. I've heard that he had lines taken away from other actors because he didn't have enough of his own, which I think is the root of some of the animosity that he had with the other cast members over time. But here we have Nimoy, who came up just like Shatner on the original series, and he can be the one to, if not tamp down those tendencies, at least deal with him and assuage him in a way that I don't think another director might have been able to.
I heard that Shatner and Nimoy's ballooning salaries got taken out of the budget for The Next Generation.
I heard that too.
But I don't know if that's true, because I don't know if Paramount's television division and film division would do that. Like, do they cross-pollinate like that? They can just reach into another wing of their corporation and say, we're taking money from this project?
I could see a bean counter somewhere saying, look, this budget's getting way out of hand. If something isn't done to curtail this, then we're going to have to get the money from somewhere. I guess we're going to have to take it from this show that may not be anything. I don't know that for a fact, but it's believable to me. On a very micro level, I could see someone having that thought process.
I think it's just those next generation pussies whining about shit.
What else do they whine about besides the uniforms in the first couple seasons?
God, they whine about everything. What are you
I'm
talking about the fans, not the creators.
Oh, the fans. Yeah, the fans need no excuse to whine. I mean, myself included.
Oh, yeah. I read an article about how political these movies were. Not necessarily that they were in any way they were reflecting politics more than espousing. So that when Ronnie Reagan takes the White House and America's Ready to deal with the Soviet Union, we get Star Trek II. And then in the middle of the decade, when things are a little uncertain and weird, like we get Star Trek III, where it comes back, it's a little less jingoistic, but a little more Star Trek. And then finally, we go full-blown Star Trek at the end of the decade when everyone had become a liberal, when the environment needed saving. Do you remember the environmental fervor at the end of the 1980s? The Captain Planet years, the Earth Day must be celebrated on television. Let's all drive our cars to the latest Earth Day celebration and eat off of styrofoam plates while we do it.
Yeah, I remember that clearly. Earth Day being like a big deal. And that was, I mean, not that it's the same thing, but there were a lot of benefits. We had Hands Across America. Obviously, that was a big one. And activism was in. And I think Nimoy, had some involvement in Save the Whales, which obviously colored what he wanted to do with Part 4. And I can't fault him for that. It raised awareness to the problem. It's a little bit heavy-handed at times. I'm not going to lie.
Heavy-handed? Are you crazy?
In the movie, yeah.
How is it heavy-handed?
Because at one point...
Because they show the footage of whaling?
No, I'm saying heavy-handed in that at one point, Shatner, as Kirk, actually says, "Isn't it ironic that when we killed these whales, we were killing our own future?" That's fucking heavy-handed right there.
That is very Star Trek, my friend.
Yeah. Well, but
this is a series that once had Frank Gorshin with blackface, whiteface, and his buddy with whiteface, blackface.
No, but my point is, the message was there without having to be spelled out in bold type. He didn't have to say that line. That always irked me, that part of the movie.
Well, I don't remember that part.
You don't remember? That's when after he...
No, I know. I'm just saying.
You know the one I'm talking about.
Of
but
course.
Anyway, we'll get there.
But as far as problems with this movie, that's not the problem.
No, well, then what are you leading up to then?
I'm not leading up to anything. We'll get there.
Okay.
This movie will lay it out for me.
We will. So the crew leave Vulcan to accept
by the way,
charges.
So they have to take this Vulcan ship, which they had to restock the food processors because they were giving me a sour stomach. Oh, you've just decided that, Scotty? You had a sour stomach, so none of us get gach? Thanks, pal. My point of this is...
The thing is, I don't think Scotty's missing any meals to take a look at him. I don't think.
Certainly doesn't. This is Scotty's finest moment, this movie, by the way. This is...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's the finest moment for a lot of the ancillary crew.
No, it's not. This is the finest moment for Scotty. Everyone else is just doing their job.
What specifically are you calling out as his finest moment? The whole arc of his character or something specific?
The arc of his character.
Yeah, but I think this is one of Chekhov's finest moments. I think he's really funny in this.
No, this is Chekhov's moment. So...
We have nothing to compare it to.
The only other thing he's done is gotten a worm in his ear.
It's horrifying.
And finest, he fucking trips himself and falls off of an aircraft carrier.
He does. He has a funny scene with the interrogator on the ship. It's a little bit who's on first.
I do not know your name. Hey, I got an idea. Which one of the crew is Russian? Let's send him to the military base. What a good idea, everybody. Doesn't that make logical sense to you, Spock? Absolutely, well, Captain. Admiral.
There's some really big holes. Like, I can't wait till we get to that scene because there's something I want to bring up on this, but I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here. So, but yeah,
is it the fact that Chekhov leaves all of his equipment there?
Yeah, yes.
Is it that by any chance? Let's talk about the flagrant. This, by the way, the Federation has a temporal directive and temporal police because of James Kirk, because of all of his fuck ups through time. And what we're seeing here is the most egregious time paradox fuckaroos you will ever see. Everyone is fucking everything up here.
But his is egregious because, well,
his is egregious. What is Scotty doing?
Well, but that's
the formula for transparent aluminum. Do you know what they use transparent aluminum for?
In modern day?
No. There is now a transparent aluminum.
Yeah.
But that's like 10 years ago they made that. But actual transparent aluminum in the show is used for the portholes on their ships.
Oh, because it only has to be an inch thick.
Right. And he gave a guy in 1986 that formula.
Well, I have some problems with that scene as it's laid out because, Well, I mean, do we want to get into this now, or do we want to?
We are talking about time fuckaroos right
Okay.
now.
All right. So then to back up a little bit, they've made this plan. They're going to have to find these whales. They want to retrofit the cargo bay of the Klingon ship to hold, make it a large aquarium, essentially. And they need to make these transparent aluminum walls. So they send McCoy and Scotty to a manufacturing plant in San Francisco to see if they can devise a way to have this thing.
But a plastics company that has their own Vietnam era helicopter.
No, it's not that same place. Sulu's somewhere else for that.
No. The name of the company is on the side of the helicopter.
Oh, is it on there? I often wondered, where does he pick up that? It's odd.
Right there. He's like, let's go to this plastics company. Hey, they got a helicopter. Let me go check that out.
Well,
two birds with one stone, gentlemen. I don't understand what that means. Birds and stones. What are you talking about?
The weird thing about that is that it's unclear. Like, Sulu's just going to buddy up with this guy who flies a Huey so that he can take it for God knows what purpose. That seems odd too.
Well, no, he uses it later in the movie.
He does, but what I'm saying is, like, this guy's just going to let him take this Huey because he knows a little bit about how to fly one. Like, get the fuck out of here. This is a helicopter, a military helicopter.
This was 1986. It was a different age. Everyone was handing their helicopter keys to friends and strangers alike.
It's like Sulu is doing the Jedi mind trick on this guy. Like, you will let me take your helicopter.
I think if George Takei uses that voice on anybody, they're going to do exactly what he says.
Yeah. Very deep, rich voice. So they're in this plant, and Scotty offers the formula for transparent aluminum to this guy. They even say at one point, they go off to the side and say, McCoy says, well, you realize we might be causing a paradox with this guy. We might be changing history. And Scotty makes a joke and says, well, how do we know he didn't invent the stuff? So that's enough for them, and they develop it. But so yes, that's egregious. But what I think is odd is the guy has like a Macintosh computer, not a Mac, a Macintosh. People of a certain age will remember these little cube-like personal computers.
Paid promotion.
My thought is, or my dissonance in the scene is, how is this software? This is an advanced material that's never been developed. It won't be developed for probably another 100 years or something. Let's just say 100 years. How is it possible that the software can even comprehend the complex formula that Scotty is hunting and pecking with two fingers on this keyboard? That didn't make any sense to me, because there's probably parts of that formula that haven't even been discovered on the planet yet. So how the heck is it going to be able to spit out this formula, Father Malone? I ask you.
I don't know.
It should have just blue screened. That's what should have happened.
Not only complex formulas, but we're getting graphics. It's showing us diagrams that he's.
It's the same computer that they use in Revenge of the Nerds. Remember when Anthony Edwards makes a little graphic of a boy nerd and a girl nerd, and they beep, 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 beep. But he does this with a couple of clickety clacks of his fingers on the keyboard. It's the same thing.
This is the same computer that a second ago he was talking into the mouse.
It's a computer, which is a great moment. And what I love about that is that you kind of think, well, this is just going to be a bust for them, because Scotty can't even comprehend an old computer. But then a keyboard, how quaint. And he cracks his knuckles and beep, beep, boop, 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 boop. There you go, transparent aluminum. So I do have, I love this movie, clearly, but I do have problems with some of the ins and outs of it. And that's one of them. But so that's bad enough. You're right. They're changing history by introducing this material, decades, if not hundreds of years before its actual development. But on top of that, but what I think is almost at least on a par with it is Chekhov is taken into custody because he had to board a nuclear naval vessel to extract protons to recharge the dilithium crystals in I sound like such a nerd. In the Klingon ship. He's taken into custody. He's being interrogated. They've taken his communicator. They've taken his Starfleet credentials. And in a bid to escape, he threatens to shoot them with a phaser, which won't work because of the radiation interference. And he throws it at the guy and runs off. But what doesn't really get called out is now this guy has essentially alien technology in his hands. He's got a phaser, and he's got a communicator and the credentials, whatever. But I mean, hey, the phaser is not like disabled. He can figure out how to use the thing. But then what do? Do they reverse engineer it and make these horrible weapons of war? And now the whole of history is devastated.
That's exactly what's going to happen. Are you crazy? Remember when in a piece of the action, McCoy's like, this might be a problem. I left my
Yes, exactly.
communicator. And they're like, are you, Spock's like, that's the basis of all of our technology is in that thing. And yes. And that was a civilization that were using Tommy guns. And we were terrified that they'd be coming for a piece of our action. Here in 1986, they give it to this guy. It's just one of many egregious time traveling moments.
And it's played for laughs, but the reality is much darker when you really follow the thread to its conclusion.
And by the way, in Star Trek, time travel is a straight line. There are no branching timelines in Star Trek. There are other dimensions. There's a mirror dimension, but you don't create a new timeline when you go back in time. I'm just saying, fuck you, J.J. Abrams.
Yeah, well, I think to me, still the best explanation of branching timelines and what can happen is from Back to the Future 2. I mean, Doc Brown lays it all out on his chalkboard, what Marty's up to and how he created this alternate timeline, and it skews off of the main branch. They just didn't care. In the service to a fun, rollicking adventure, they just kind of throw those concerns out the window and say, not going to worry about it.
I have a theory. The reason Scotty is so cavalier about let me back up.
Yeah.
If you read the novelization, that is the inventor of transparent aluminum.
Oh, so he knew that all along.
He eventually comes up with that formula and popularizes it, and then eventually it gets made. Okay. In the novelization, by the way, because of that, because they give us that information. See, McCoy says, we're fucking up here, and Scotty jokes, but then he says he is the inventor of transparent aluminum. And who's to say that we weren't supposed to give it to him? And that's interesting. Maybe the Enterprise coming back to the time is how we got transparent aluminum to begin with. Okay, so that's an interesting concept from the novelization, but it doesn't count because it's not in the fucking movie. It's instead them shrugging it off like, we're fucking with the timeline. Here's the thing. Perhaps Scotty has in his mind, it's 1986. I'm going to give this guy the transparent aluminum formula. In about a decade or so, this is all going to be gone because there's going to be a huge war and most of humanity is going to get wiped out. So I think any problem that we create here isn't really going to matter within a decade. And that might be the attitude of the entire crew. It's just that they're not talking about it because why would you?
I'm imagining them this is such a light, rollicking, fun movie, and to bring that up like this, none of this matters because all the people that you're seeing on the street, crossing the street and driving this bus and this punk on the bus, they're going to be dead inside of 17, 18 years tops. So we're just going to, why even worry about the temporal concerns here, the dangers, because it's not going to matter.
Fucking fly in with the bird of prey. We're in full view of everyone. What are you going to do about it? Nothing.
That's right. Who cares? You're dead to me already.
People of Earth, we're here for the whales. Give us 2 whales and we'll be gone. Zippity zap.
I don't think the Prime Directive would allow for that.
Neither does the Temporal fucking Directive, man. And they've broken so many more of those regulations. There's an entire book series of the Temporal Police. The point I was going to make way earlier when I completely lost my train of thought because you hit me with the ensign from the Farragut bit is that when I started watching Strange New Worlds, I went back and I looked at all of the different series because I felt I was very deficient in my Star Trek knowledge. I thought like there were huge gaps. And as it turns out, there weren't any. I've seen all of the different series, right? Nevertheless, the feeling persisted that I was deficient in some way. And then I went and looked at the list of Star Trek books, and it knocked me on my ass. There are so many.
Yeah.
When I stopped reading the novels was around 1992. There And I had read them all by then. And I thought, like, well, I'm on top of this. Oh, no. So many varied and just, and by the way, everybody, if you go to the internet archives, the internet archive.
The archive.org.
Yeah, I'm going to put a link in the show notes to the Star Trek page because there's like 8,000 or so articles and books and movies and stuff you can watch all Star Trek there. It's pretty fucking amazing. So yeah, the insane amount of novels is just staggering.
I remember, and this was before 92, I remember going to the mall as a kid and going to the bookstore, and the Star Trek books, you could see them in the sci-fi section, like taking up at least one whole row, if not more. They all had the same, they were like almost like dime store paperbacks, for lack of a better term. They weren't actual dime store paperbacks, but they were very disposable books of varying quality. Some were pretty decent, others were terrible. Oof. But this was the kind of book that you would get at like the airport if you wanted something quick and easy to read on your flight or whatever. A million, dozens. I tried reading some of these books, and like I said, some I could get through, some were just terrible and really bad. But to your point, there were so many, and I don't know that any of them are considered canon at this point. I don't think they really were, because they were just so unmanaged.
If it ain't on screen, it didn't happen.
It's kind of the way I look at it. Even like because Star Wars had a pretty good run of paperback books too. Remember there was a Han Solo's Revenge, Han Solo at Star's End. It was the same thing. It's just instead of Star Trek, you had Star Wars.
There were way more than that, because you remember there was Heir to the Empire and the whole Thrawn series of books, and and Luke Skywalker and Mara Jade and their kids. It was that whole thing. And then Lucas came in and said, I'm going to do these prequels. And they said, well, wait, there's all this other stuff. And he went, I don't care about what are you talking
about. There was a lot of this stuff.
No more, baby. Oh, I like Coruscant. That's a good name.
So yeah, there was so much lore and so many books. And then the comic books came in, and that was a whole thing. So yeah,
there it is.
Lot to consume.
Where were we? I think we were just talking about, that's pretty much all I need to say about time travel. The fact that soon Armageddon will put an end to all of their misdeeds.
Exactly. So the I keep saying the Enterprise. There's no easy way to say the Enterprise
HMS
crew,
Bounty.
The HMS Bounty from now on is what I'm talking about. The Bounty is on its way back to Earth, and Earth is now, it's cataclysmic. The oceans are being raised up. The atmosphere is getting ionized, and things are bad. And Sarek says to the Federation president, he says, why don't we send out a planetary distress signal just while we have time?
Hey, why didn't we do this earlier, everybody? Why wasn't there a planet-wide evacuation as soon as we realized that this unstoppable probe had entered our solar system?
Because they knew it was coming and what the repercussions were, because all of these ships are sending distress signals that they have no power. They're trying to deploy a solar sail to, at one point, by the way, I'm sure you noticed this, Fatherman. Of course you did. They're in sort of central command of Starfleet as all of this is transpiring, and there's all these view screens of other ships sending distress signals. At one point, you see on one of the screens a female commander giving her distress signal. It is none other than Jane Weedland from the Go-Go's.
Oh, yeah. She's a huge Star Trek fan, Jane Weedland. I love me some Jane Weedland. She had that band Frosted where the ST were capitalized and the rest was lowercase because of Star Trek.
Were they Star Trek themed?
No, not at all. But that was her solo band. And I'm going to put, at the end of this episode, I'm going to put her track, Empty and Meaningless, one of my favorite songs of all time, little Jane Weedland. And yeah, so she's in this, and she's also in Star Trek 6. She's in Star Trek 6.
What is she in Star Trek 6?
Just someone on the bridge or something.
Oh, okay. I didn't notice her in that. When we get to that, I'll have to check it out. So they send out this distress signal, which the Bounty picks up, and they're all fretting about it. And they pick up the signal. They listen to the signal of the probe is sending out. It's this screeching signal that seems to be directed to the oceans. So Kirk actually brilliantly says, well, can we hear what that sounds like as if we were underwater accounting for all these factors? And they play it back, and lo and behold, it sounds an awful lot like whale song. So Spock has a brainstorm. He goes off, figures out that it's a humpback whale call. But as he feared, there's no way for this thing to respond because the humpback whales are now extinct. So it's a Kobayashi Maru of situations here. There's no way they can possibly defeat this thing unless Kirk makes the bold choice to attempt time travel by slingshotting around the sun, which I think they've done that before, have they not, Father Malone?
Yeah, they
this
did
is
it
not
back,
untested.
They did it back on the series, right? But they did it in kind of as an accident. They weren't like, hey, let's go time traveling, everybody. It's a little cavalier how much they're ready to go do it and knowing that they can do it. And which leads me to think, like, why aren't the Klingons doing this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like ship after ship, just keep going until you get back there and fucking fix everything and make the Klingon Empire everywhere.
It is a little interesting how, well, I mean, I guess, what are you going to do? I mean, the very survival of the Earth is at stake.
I'm not saying they shouldn't attempt it. I'm just saying the way they talk about it is like, yeah, hey, let's just go do that time travel thing now.
There's some fretting. I mean, Spock has
some calculations for time warp again.
It's not without risk that they all acknowledge, but they have no choice. So,
you know, those whale songs that you mentioned?
Yeah.
Do you know that they were a big part in ending most of whaling in the civilized countries during the 1970s? That album that came out, that Songs of the Humpback Whale by Roger Payne.
Is that right? That album was responsible?
It turned the tide of public opinion about what whales are and their level of consciousness once people heard them singing beautifully to one another. That, hey, maybe we shouldn't just be wantonly killing them for no reason, because at that point, anything you were getting from whales was could be easily substituted with another product, you know?
We don't need blubber for oil. Yeah,
exactly. We really need ambergris. Can we just synthesize a different scent elsewhere?
I think whaling still does go on to a much smaller degree, but I think like in places that it's not regulated,
Japan.
I think that still does happen. Japan, but it obviously, as I know, they're not being hunted into extinction anymore. It's a good thing.
No, none of the humpback whales when this movie were made were on the endangered list. They no longer are. I mean, that doesn't mean anything really. Like they're not let's say. They're not what they were before we started slaughtering them wholesale.
Right.
But yes, and the nations that are still out there murdering them are slowly, the tide is turning against them as well, because their product that they're bringing in is too contaminated with pollution.
Yeah, ironic.
I don't really have words for that. It's like, yay, no more whaling. Oh, because they're so poisoned that they're no longer of any use to these greedy fucks.
That's sad.
Take them away, Kirk, Spock, McCoy, Scotty, Uhura.
So back to Fantasyland.
Zulu, Chekhov, Maltz. How you doing, Maltz? I'm just happy to be here, everybody.
Like it should be the name of a deli. Maltz's Deli, home of the giant Reuben. Maltz.
We should get a Maltz cookbook going. Have you read any of the Star Trek cookbooks?
No, I have not.
Whew, boy. I wanted to make a dish to have while we were recording today. So this morning, I went through the very first Star Trek cookbook, the one that came out basically when the series was going on, or the early 70s. And I couldn't find one thing that I wanted to eat in that goddamn book.
Like, how would you make gach? The Klingon dish?
It was so early that they don't have gach. They basically had...
That's so well known.
Yeah, no, that wasn't until Next Generation, gach. That was that Heart of Glory or whatever the fuck, or that was a Riker episode where we discovered what gach was.
No, I have not. I've never even seen a Star Trek cookbook, let alone read one.
There is a recipe for onion pie that is attributed to the Klingons. It's not exactly what they would have made on Klingon Prime, but it's as close as we could get on Earth. Onions and cheese baked into a pie. Actually sounds pretty good.
Because I've always thought in the back of my mind, Father Malone, cheese and onion.
CHESEANDONIONS. Oh, no?
Oh, no. Anyway, so they do their slingshot thing, and much to their surprise, I actually, by the way, this sequence is so...
I was going to say, are you going to jump over this fucking nightmare fuel?
It's very nightmarish because it's make the slingshot approach, and they're making their slingshot, and all of a sudden it becomes this weird cloud dreamscape where heads, early CG versions of their heads, like you see Uhura's head morph into Scotty's head, morphing into Chekhov's head, but it looks like stone statuary that you would see in an ancient civilization. And there's these disembodied voices.
This is Kirk's point of view, because we focus in on him. So this is what's going on in Kirk's mind as he's traveling through time. He's seeing his fellow crew members as weird amorphous statues morphing one into another while we're hearing snatches of dialogue
from the future, from stuff that hasn't happened in the movie yet. And ending with his head kind of pushing into the main view. And then there's a shot of a almost like Altered States, like this human figure that doesn't have any real definition falling through the air, splashing in a pool, and you're seeing whales floating around, and it's all very weird. And then all of a sudden they kind of fade into the shot of the bridge. Everybody's fallen like asleep. We don't know how long they've been out for, or how long, like Sulu kind of like opens his eyes as if he's waking up from a colonoscopy or something, like, oh, the braking thrusters have fired, Captain. Like it was just so weird. Like what happened to them during the slingshot of time travel.
Thank God for Klingon braking thrusters, I guess.
Seriously. So, but they make it the best they can approximate. They've reached their target of the late 20th century. They've zeroed in on the Bay Area of San Francisco as being the likely spot. I think she picks up whale song, Uhura picks up whale song on the computer, and they set off for San Francisco. They land in Golden Gate Park, cloaked.
Yeah, which is a great idea, because I'm sure no one is going to go to Golden Gate Park and play soccer or fucking throw a football around or a frisbee or a hacky sack or fucking, just going out for a run. I'm going to lay out my blanket here. Oh,
bong. And we've established in Star Trek 3 that cloaking is not an absolute. If you look at it in just the right way, it's like the Predator kind of. You can see behind it like the magnification effect of this cloaking device. So it's not as if it's perfectly invisible either.
Right.
So it's a very big leap of...
Maybe it's only when it's in motion against a star field is when you're going to see it.
I guess if we're being generous, let's say that for the sake of this movie.
But look, it's a really stupid idea. We get it. It's a joke, and this is a lighter hearted one, and we don't really give a shit about things. But hey, man, this is also Star Trek. And they shouldn't be doing this. They shouldn't be parking that fucking gigantic spaceship where everyone can accidentally run into it.
This requires probably the most suspension of disbelief that you're going to find in a Star Trek movie, because this isn't the future we're talking about exclusively. This is now, they've come down to our environs. So you're going to have to just accept that for inexplicably Golden Gate Park is abandoned for the next several days while they figure out this problem and how to solve it.
It's like, do you want a alien world that obviously looks like a soundstage, or do you want complete and total like break with reality here and everything looks really good?
Yeah. We're just along for the ride. I'll accept it.
I've been to that park where they filmed the ship landing and they get off the Bounty. It's in Balboa Park in Los Angeles, just outside Paramount Studios. I had been there, didn't realize that they had filmed it there. There's another location that I've also been to that I had no idea while I was there too. So here we are. Welcome to San Francisco. Don't forget where we parked. Good line. That's a good line.
It is. There's some real gems here, and it's not. I don't think it's a coincidence that this is probably where Nicholas Meyer picked up the script writing.
Easily,
they landed on, they're there. The humor is much more, it's just funnier. It's more casual. They have more to do. It's a hangout. Like you said, I love hanging out with these characters. So they make their way into San Francisco to the sounds of this like very roboto drum machine soundtrack music, which I hate, which immediately dates the movie in the way that it really mostly is pretty not dated in that. They break out into teams, right? So Kirk and Spock are going to tackle the whale, finding the whale. Chekhov and Uhura are going to figure out, because the dilithium crystals they've run out of power.
Is the movie HP, or does it make it a perfect period piece?
There's nothing perfect about that sound, that
Like if you
roboto electronic sound.
what I'm saying is, like, if you were making a movie with characters now and they traveled back to the 1970s and you wanted to portray the 1970s, so you do it with the cheesiest music from the 1970s at that moment to evoke the 1970s, right? Isn't that a possibility here? I know it's not.
It's a stretch, but I'll allow it. Motion objection sustained, Father Malone.
Starfleet regulations, that's outrageous.
That's outrageous. So Uhura, so they need to recharge the lithium crystals on the ship, or they're going to decloak and all bets are off. So they figure they're going to go to a naval vessel that still runs on nuclear energy, and they can steal some protons. This is all tech speak. They're going to basically go to the ship and grab some stuff that can recharge the lithium crystals. That's Uhura and Chekhov's job. Sulu, McCoy, and Scotty are going to try and figure out how to retrofit the cargo bay for the whales to get the materials and so on and so forth. So now they've all broken out into their own little jobs, which is also a nice opportunity to see them outside, not only away from the main three, but kind of doing their own thing, like in isolation, which is awesome.
It is awesome. And retroactively, it makes me angry that they didn't bother to do anything like this in the previous movies. It would not be that hard just to give these characters a little thing to do here and there, a line here and there, instead of just the main focus. The fact that they kept introducing characters in these movies and giving them a lot to do is absolutely bonkers. I don't need to know Kirk's son. Who gives a shit? I want to know about Pavel Chekhov. He wants to be an admiral.
Well, thank goodness they, at least for this particular movie, our wishes are granted, Father Malone. And we get to see them bounce off each other and be funny and be interesting in a way that we haven't seen before. And we're not going to see, sadly, we're not going to see much of going forward. Star Trek VI, things, we get a little more of that, but not to this degree. This is really the height of the ancillary crew and things they got to do in a movie.
Were you with me at the Star Trek convention I went to in Boston around the time of this movie to see Walter Koenig speak?
No, you and I went to a convention where James Doohan was speaking, but we didn't stay for his part. I think we poked our heads into the conference room that he was speaking in, but that was it. We didn't stay for it. I didn't see the one with Walter Koenig. What did he have to say?
Oh, it was the moment I realized that Chekhov had been given nothing to do for 4 movies, because he was like, yeah, well, no, they just keep injuring me, but hey, I'll take it. It was like that. And I felt like, oh man, and I feel really bad because I like him and I like Chekhov.
There's a series, I think I mentioned this to you. There's a series of videos on YouTube. It's like the Foundation organization. There's some organization devoted to recording actors and creatives in the industry and just in their field with particular movies and television shows they made. And Walter Koenig has a video that I watched fairly recently where if you want to kind of get his side of why they didn't like Shatner, where the friction lied. I mean, he's very diplomatic, I have to say, but it is illuminating nonetheless. The easy answer is that they recognize that he would take lines and scenes away from them. He didn't want the focus. Shatner didn't want the focus to be off of him. So these got the rest of the cast kind of got shuffled off to the background to a certain degree. But it's important to realize that these are actors, these are people. It's easy to watch these movies and not even give them a second thought, but this is their career. This is all they had. So it's one thing for us to talk about it, who got to do what, but it's another thing to imagine you've done a TV show for 3 years out of your life or whatever, 2 or 3 years out of your career. And that becomes, not only is that your defining role, but it's not even a role that you can really be that proud of or feel like that creatively satisfied in doing. It's an interesting perspective to take on.
I mean, at least they got something to do finally here.
Look, here's the thing. Some actors work their whole lives and they never get one scintilla of the notoriety that, say, Walter Koenig got.
This is true. So, and he had syndication money. Let's, come on.
Sure. And the conventions, I think, is very lucrative. I don't know that these original actors are doing much of that these days. But nevertheless, it's not as if they didn't profit to some degree. But I'm talking about the creative satisfaction.
Plus, he showed up on Babylon 5 as Bester, that fucking psionic cop. He was really good on that.
Walter Koenig did?
Yeah.
Okay.
And some of those, was a good show, Babylon 5. Who's with me?
Sure.
Who's with me,
sure.
listeners?
A lot of these actors, like I know James Doohan was on Next Generation at some point. They cross-pollinated across these other shows, and that's great. But I can't help feeling a little bad for the other crew of the Enterprise for how shitty they were treated, clearly. But not here. This is when they really get their moments in the sun, right?
They sure do. Uhura doesn't get anything, really.
For some reason, she's the only, Kirk says before they leave the ship, leave your Federation credentials here, civilian clothes only. But inexplicably, Uhura is still wearing her Starfleet uniform with a little flap that comes down, the red thing.
That's all she had. There should have been a moment where she went and got some clothes. How about that?
She's on Vulcan. They could give her any manner of clothes.
And by the way, the Vulcans couldn't just lend them a ship? Sarek didn't have a ship for them? They're like, we're going to have to fucking figure out how to fly this goddamn Klingon ship home. Like, Sarek could be like, no, you can take mine. I'll give you a ride. Let's go, guys.
And Spock is still in his Vulcan initiate robe, this white robe, and he even says, like, I'm sorry, I couldn't find my uniform. So now we got him walking around San Francisco looking like some kind of weird hippie.
Like someone in San Francisco. Yeah, that's fine. By the way, that was the smartest thing Leonard Nimoy did, was make sure that, even because he's going to be directing and starring in the movie, and that's going to be tough. So at least he gave himself the most comfortable outfit in the world. I want that Vulcan robe, that terry cloth deliciousness. I want to be buried in it.
Yeah. And he is also smart enough because Kirk says, look, it's a safe bet that none of these people have seen an extraterrestrial before. So Spock rips off a strip from his cozy terry cloth robe and wraps it around. He does the same thing kind of in
Piece of the Action.
Piece of the Action, right. I was going to say
he wears a knit cap in that one, which is really cool.
Right.
Yeah. He looks like a dock worker.
Yeah, I love the watch cap look. So he has this bandana wrapped around his ears so that you can neither see the points of his ears nor his weird eyebrows.
Now, I contend that he could have just gone regular and no one would have given him a second look.
Well, yeah, especially when they have this stereotypical punk on the bus who looks way weirder of the time than, that people are going to be focused on that weirdo with the mohawk more so than the guy with the odd haircut and ears.
A word about that. Kirk Thatcher, one of the producers on the film playing the punk, played him eventually again on Picard, which was fun. That was the only good part of that Picard series, as far as I can tell. Also, in the Marvel Werewolf by Night TV movie directed by Michael Giacchino, he's the giant Scottish hunter with the fucking broad axe in that.
Oh, I didn't know that was the same guy.
Yeah,
That's
man.
pretty cool.
Love Kirk Thatcher. When I was rereading it, apparently it was they needed a punk and he was like, I'll do it. And it should be noted that penny pinching was going on a lot halfway through the making of this movie. Paramount started closing up the checkbook and locking it real tight. So people were filling in, like when the nuclear Wessels scene, like those are all crew members that they're talking to, or like, I don't know, maybe in Sausalito, like that's member of the crew. So I don't know, what was I saying?
So you talk about Kirk Thatcher, the punk.
So Kirk Thatcher says, hey, I'll play the punk character and to convince you, I will shave my head into a mohawk in order to do it. And then I was rewatching the movie yesterday. He's got a faux hawk.
Yeah, it's combed up.
It's just combed up and sprayed. That's him. That's him on the radio too. By the way, he co-wrote that song, the "I Hate You" song.
I berate you. Yeah. So and this scene got a lot of laughs of the time in the theater where Kirk and Spock are on this bus and there's a punk with a boombox playing this song and Kirk's like, "Can you turn that damn noise down?" And the punk like flips him off and turns the radio up even louder. And Spock takes it upon himself to give him a nerve pinch. So the guy basically passes out and flops onto the radio, which shuts itself off. That's assault. I mean, I don't care.
Everyone on the bus applauds. They have no idea what happened. Did he knock him out? Did he murder him just then? They can't see. Did he just start stabbing him in the neck and now he's dead? Like, Yay!
Could have
No
been
more
any-
punk
yeah.
music.
They're just applauding. And yeah, it seems, like I said, it got a big laugh in the theater at the time.
Oh, come
But
on. It's a great gag. And, you know,
it
that guy
is.
was a dick.
He was, but to your point, they don't know what happened to that guy. He could have like strangled him in some way. They weren't paying attention to that. A little odd in retrospect.
HP, when's the last time you rode the bus? You would cheer too.
I guess so.
Shut your fucking radio off,
oh, no,
damn it.
I wouldn't, but that's like saying, well, if you just shot the guy, would you applaud? No, I wouldn't applaud. I don't want someone to be fucking injured. Who cares?
I wouldn't want him shot. I'm not saying that. You would applaud if he nerve pinched him.
Yeah, but I don't know. As a 1986 person, I don't know what a nerve pinch is. The guy, like, his eyes like roll up in his head and he falls down. It looks like he had a coronary event. Anyway.
I hate you.
Hate you.
I berate you.
Great stuff. Was that on the soundtrack? Do you know?
No.
Should have been.
It definitely was not on that soundtrack. What do you think of this soundtrack? What do you think of these themes? Dun, 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 dun. Hey, we're having a good time.
Yeah, this was not my favorite. It's fine. It's fine. This wasn't my favorite. This doesn't have the vision of a Star Trek 2, or a Jerry Goldsmith type of score. It's fine. I don't know. I didn't find it all that memorable, but
I think it's entirely appropriate for this film. They don't need the grand fanfare here. They don't need James Horner, who priced himself out.
Like I said, it's fine.
He got too expensive. James Horner got his big break with Star Trek 2. And then by Star Trek 4, he's like, sorry, fellas. I have real work to do now.
What, he was doing Willow, I think, right?
I have to do Aliens right now with James Cameron, which is basically just the Star Trek 2 soundtrack with a few changes.
That's good. It's fine.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it doesn't distinguish itself in any real way, but it didn't take me out of the movie. It works well. Nothing bad.
No, I think it's fine. It's pleasant enough. And
yeah,
what are you going to do when your composer bails? You get Leonard Rosenman.
Sure. Love the name.
Mrs. Candygram.
Oh. So we haven't even talked about the Cetacean Institute and the other character in this movie.
Did you go to the Cetacean Institute when you were in San Francisco recently, HP?
No, because I don't think it exists. I don't think that's a real
Well, it does. If you go to Monterey, it's the Monterey Aquarium. Which is where I went to it on Cannery Row. Went in, did the whole thing, went out back, saw that fucking that pool, the open ocean area in the back. Had no idea where I was. Only afterwards was watching the movie and went, God, that looks a lot like that fucking aquarium. And then looked it up, and yeah, it's the Monterey Aquarium, which, by the way, is a fantastic aquarium.
So I wish I knew about that, because as Father Malone said, I did take a trip. Me and my family, we drove actually down the PCH. We started in San Francisco, went all the way down through Monterey, and ended up eventually in LA. Two things. One, we stopped at Cannery Row. We went to Monterey. Biggest ripoff you'd ever seen. I wish I knew about the aquarium, because that would have been fun, but like Cannery Row itself was just a complete tourist trap.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's a tiny little slice of Las Vegas, right in the middle of California. I love it there.
Yeah, really cheesy.
Here's my tip, by the way, for anyone who likes to go to thrift stores, as I do, or go to rich areas.
Yes.
I got a first edition of Dance Macabre by Stephen King. Perfect condition for $1.
Related to that, there used to be a used bookstore in Hyannis that I would go to when I was down in the Cape, Father Malone. I went into this used bookstore. Hyannis is being a fairly upscale area. I found a collection of artwork by Ray Pettibone.
Oh, okay.
Most people will know he did the artwork for a lot of SST artists. Black Flag, all of the Black Flag albums had his artwork. I got a book there for $12. This collection of his artwork. Do you know how much it's worth?
How much?
$800.
Holy Lord.
So what Father Malone is saying is true. Check out thrift stores, check out used bookstores, check out any of these places where people might get rid of what they consider to be their detritus, because you never know what you're going to find. The second thing I was going to mention is on this trip, we stopped in Sausalito. Actually, we spent part of the day in Sausalito. Lovely.
Did you board the Enterprise?
No, we just stuck to the downtown area, kind of like right along the seaside there. It's gorgeous. But no, Short story long, I did not make it to the Cetacean Institute, but the Kirk and Spock have to head there because there are two whales that were raised in captivity there named George and Gracie. And
my other favorite bit in the movie is Spock determining through logic how he will determine where they can find whales. Yeah. And Kirk just seeing George and Gracie at the Cetacean Institute on a bus. He's like, oh, I think we can go there.
Yeah. So they head down there and they meet a cetacean biologist named Jillian, played by who, Father Malone?
Catherine Hicks, the first woman to be menaced by Chucky.
That is true. But what I came to know her from later, and another bit of weird sort of cross casting is you're
talking about Seventh Heaven with fucking Commander Decker.
Yeah, she was. It was a very successful syndicated show named Seventh Heaven, where Stephen Collins, from people eagle-eared listeners will remember him, as you said, Commander Decker from the first Star Trek movie. He played a pastor, and she was his wife, and they had a little family. Jessica Biel, this was her first big role, I think. She'd been on the show for a few years, but yeah. So Catherine Hicks is essentially, without really being Kirk's love interest, ends up kind of being his love interest, weird way.
Yeah. I also remember her from Peggy Sue Got Married in the same time.
Another time travel movie.
Yeah, exactly. So what's it with Catherine Hicks and time travel and Killer Dolls?
She's very natural here, though, I do have to say. Like, she's believable as this whale biologist in 1986 San Francisco.
Oh, yeah. No, she's great. She's very natural. That naturalism will get her in trouble later.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Now you got me intrigued. So she's giving a tour of the aquarium or whatever, the institute. And this is where Kirk and Spock kind of pick up on the plan for George and Gracie. They're set to be released out of captivity. And this is a dangerous thing because Jillian loves these whales and she's afraid they're going to be hunted into extinction. She's afraid they're going to be killed just like the other whales that are out in the wild. But we have a great moment where they're going through this tour and Spock kind of slips away from the tour group. And as Kirk is watching one of those like aquarium view areas where it's down below where you can see underneath the aquarium water, Spock has dove in and he's mind melding with Gracie. And everybody's like, what the hell is going on here? And it's actually, you can see that it's actually Leonard Nimoy down there with this fake whale. It's a great shot.
Leonard Nimoy was a diver. He learned to dive for some production he was involved with. So yeah, that's definitely him. And this is my favorite moment of James T. Kirk in this movie. His reaction to seeing Spock in there. Oh my God, what is he doing? That is so funny to me. That would be Kirk's reaction. Like he's so exasperated at that moment.
Yeah, because he notices it before the rest of the tour group because Jillian's back is to the tank, so she doesn't even see what's happening. And that's when she notices, she basically kicks Kirk and Spock out of the tour.
But luckily they don't get arrested. Like, what was Spock thinking? Come back later, man.
It was funny, but he does mind meld, and he later tells Kirk that he was successful in communicating their intentions to the whale, and they start walking back to, Sausalito isn't that close to San Francisco, really.
They're going to get back on the bus, man.
Oh, they're going to get back on the bus and go back. Okay. So, but Jillian happens to see them walking out of town or whatever, and I think she just wants to know what the deal is because they're just odd. Spock is dressed in a weird hippie fashion, and who knows what's up with Kirk.
At this point, she has only asked Captain Kirk who he is once. It will continue ad nauseum through the rest of the movie, so she needs to keep that ball going.
Right. So
who are you? For somebody who has a photographic memory, she can never remember that he answers her over and over again.
But he's evasive until he finally lets the cat out of the bag.
But that's real soon, man. That's like the next scene.
She picks them up in her
as one does when you throw somebody out for trespassing and jumping into the tank. You want to give them a ride.
It's a little unbelievable that she would pick up these two men and she's just this one lady in the truck, but something tells her that they're harmless. And I just think she's so curious about the story behind these guys because they're so weird looking. She ends up essentially dropping off Spock in the middle of Golden Gate Park, doesn't really understand what he's going to do there. And her and Kirk go out to dinner as Kirk is basically putting the moves on her, turning on the charm so that she can.
He's really charming here.
Yeah, he is. He's fantastic. They have a scene where they go to an Italian restaurant and they order food, and she's firing. Kirk learns that they're going to be released tomorrow. That the whales are going to be released tomorrow, which he has all these balls in the air. They have to figure out how to fix the dilithium crystals. They got to retrofit the cargo bay. All this stuff's happening, and he's freaking out. But in the midst of this conversation, he finally admits to her that he is an officer in Starfleet and he's been sent back in time. He tells her it's to repopulate this. The smartest thing he does is not tell her that I'm trying to avert the destruction of the Earth by bringing these whales back.
We have to bring them there because we fucking hunted them to death. That's going to happen within 20 or 30 years.
Yeah, which would kill her because she's so close to the whales and she loves being a cetacean biologist.
She loves those whales so much that she has them basically in a pickle barrel.
The word captivity is thrown around a lot, and I don't think people understand what that really means. That means that these whales were taken from their natural habitat and put into a tank, a false environment for which to live.
Yeah, if anything, this character should be trying to free those whales from captivity.
Yeah, seriously. So
whales are 50 feet long. Do you realize the amount of space they need just to swim around and breathe, for Christ's sake?
Well, what I think is odd is...
Well, they don't breathe. I mean, they're mammals. They breathe from the air. I understand.
They breathe from the air, but just to skip ahead for a minute, so spoiler alert, they figure out, they get the panels of transparent aluminum built, and they put them in the cargo hold.
No, they don't. They get whatever the equivalent is. People always say that, like that they made transparent aluminum. He doesn't make transparent aluminum. He looks at it and he says, it's going to take me years to figure that out.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
And then they just buy plexiglass. They buy they don't buy it. They get the 6-inch plexiglass.
Yeah. So they load it up with the help of Sulu piloting this mysterious Huey that he's talked his way into flying. But anyway, they transport the whales and the water up to the cargo hold. But like how much air could there possibly be in this giant fish tank that they've created? Have they really thought through the fact that these things have to breathe air?
Well, I mean, if they just left a layer of oxygen at the top where they could surface and grab the air from there, and they're pumping air into it.
Well, I hope they're pumping air into it. That's the only thing that makes sense.
Well, that's what happens.
So the cat's out of the bag finally.
Yeah.
That now she's convinced. Well, no, before we even get to that. So now Kirk, so Scotty and McCoy have figured out how to get the plexiglass from this guy. That's not a problem. Clearly, Sulu has figured out how to get a helicopter for the job. Now we're dealing with Uhura and Chekhov. We haven't talked about that. They make their way somehow onto this nuclear naval vessel, and they put a device right up against...
This scenario calls for these troops to be so inept that they allow
it really is
effectively a Russian national to sneak aboard and get to the reactor on an aircraft carrier.
It doesn't make it, that part, this is really where we're talking about a movie about time travel, and this is the scene that strains the most credulity for me, is that Uhura and Chekhov are walking, I mean, they're creeping around, but nevertheless, they're walking around a commissioned naval vessel.
She's in a military uniform.
It's so far-fetched, it's ridiculous. But they hold this device up to the reactor to gather the protons. It takes a while. They finally manage it. Now they're going to transport back to the Bounty, but because of the depleted power source, they can only transport one person at a time. So Chekhov says, Uhura, you go with the protons. I'll go next. So she goes.
By the way, low power and transporter. No, thanks. I'll walk.
You're right. So she transports over with no issue, but Scotty loses contact with Chekhov because of the interference of the nuclear reactor that's right there. And in the meantime, they've discovered this foreign presence in the ship. The naval officers are like, oh my God, there's somebody in the ship. Let's find them. They converge on Chekhov. They essentially capture him and they interrogate him. And what I think is actually good, makes sense in this, is that they're very thrown by the fact that Chekhov has a Russian accent. And now this is really, the Cold War is still it's waning, but the Cold War is still on at this point.
Full swing, man, as far as we knew.
Right. So that makes a lot of sense that they would be so dubious and nervous about a Russian national in the middle of a top secret naval vessel. So they have a back and forth. It's a little bit like, it's funny. It's like who's on first, kind of, because Chekhov doesn't understand what they're getting at. And they're like, this guy seems like there's something wrong with him because he's not making any sense.
Pavel, don't give them your serial number. Why? By the way, Pavel, why do you have ID? You were specifically told not to.
He was told to leave it on the ship, but he didn't. So he manages to get away, and he runs. It's a little bit Keystone Cop-ish. It seems like the most inept
He runs
ship in
and
the fleet.
trips himself and falls off the fucking aircraft carrier. What's happening here? They couldn't conceive of anything else. Couldn't have somebody hit him in the head, or maybe he had radiation poisoning. I don't know.
It's really awful when you think about it. He falls off of the deck of this ship onto the concrete deck below and really messes up his head. I think he's got like severe
brain
head trauma.
damage.
So Uhura eventually picks up over the radio that he's being raced to emergency surgery at Mercy Hospital, and he's not expected to make it. So this prompts McCoy to say, let me go, because, and I really like this about McCoy. This is one of my favorite McCoy sort of scenes, is he goes with Kirk and Jillian, who has now been told the whole truth of what's happening. She goes with them to try and rescue Chekhov. So they go there disguised as doctors.
Second best scene in the movie.
And it is the second best, because the whole time McCoy just keeps muttering about how this is the Spanish Inquisition.
We're dealing with medievalism.
Like, it's so barbaric. At one point, a nice funny moment here is he's walking down the hall and there's an old woman there moaning, and he kind of goes over to her, and very much like McCoy, he's like, "What's wrong with you?" And she says, "Oh, my kidneys."
Bedside manner there.
Yeah, he's got no bedside manner.
What's your problem?
That's what he says. She says, "It's dialysis, kidney dialysis," and he's just like, oh my God, this is the Spanish Inquisition. So he reaches into this valise that he's carrying. It just pulls out this random pill and says, here, take this. And if you're still, call me in the morning. It's like this joke. And as he's walking away, the camera follows, but you see the woman, without missing a beat, putting the pill into her mouth.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's, and then you kind of forget about her, and he goes off. They find Chekhov in the room, in the emergency room, and the doctors there are like prepping the drill, like boom, boom, boom.
Oof.
So it looks awful. And McCoy,
which, by the way, that's how you relieve pressure on the brain when it's swelling. When there's an edema, you got to let the pressure out somehow. So it is ridiculously barbaric to anyone from the 23rd century, I'm sure, but it's the best we could do.
Yeah, this isn't a fantasy. This is how you do this. But for me, this scene gave me almost like the most hope for the future, because what happens is McCoy goes in and he basically begs the guy, like, you don't cut into his brain. That's not how you fix the problem. You repair the artery.
Man, drilling holes in his head is not the answer. The artery must be repaired.
So Kirk hustles the real doctors into a closet and phases the lock shut so they can't get out. And there's this awesome device that seems like so realistic to me. They put this device on Chekhov's head, and they just sit there going, all right, come on, wake up. And you hear this thing, and this thing, whatever it is, repaired the artery in his brain, fixed him. I'm watching this as a 13-year-old kid, and I'm saying to myself, man, the future is going to be so great for medical science. Like, this is... Here you had modern day at the time, they're going to cut into this guy's head. That's the only thing they know how to do. But man, in the future, they can just fix the problem. That's great. I mean, this is Gene Roddenberry's dream of what Star Trek was supposed to represent, is the future is not to be feared, but to be lusted after and appreciated and looked forward to, right? So I don't know. That made me very hopeful to watch that as a kid.
And we deserve a tongue lashing.
Why?
Because we're a bunch of fucking apes stabbing each other with sticks.
Yeah. Oh, you mean like just mankind? For
to McCoy, and we need to hear that. Be better than this. Strive.
So they fix Chekhov. Now they've got to escape out of the hospital. Again, it's another Keystone Cops situation where the cops are like, whoop, and they're always like 5 steps behind.
When you went in, your patient was a girl. One mistake.
Yeah, because they went in with Jillian on the gurney saying she's got this awful whatever. But smartly, what they do is they get into the elevator, and as on their elevator, they're like, Scotty, beam us over. And the cops are on the first floor waiting for the elevator to open up, and they're gone because they got transported back to the Bounty. And that's the last missing piece before they can try to retrieve the whales. There's a long way to get there. It's fun, but now they've got to, because the whales were released in the dead of night to avoid a media circus.
That's
so
right.
Now they're
by the true villain of the movie, Bob,
who gets slapped, but good.
He does,
by Jillian.
And by Jillian and by Catherine Hicks.
For real.
Yeah, for real. She really slapped that guy, and he really walked off the set and didn't come back, and his other scene didn't get filmed, and then he sued the production and won.
I didn't know that postscript, but if you watch that scene when she says, "You son of a bitch," and she slaps him, he gives her the dirtiest look as she storms off. It's interesting to know the rest of it.
Because it's supposed to be acting.
Yeah.
You can't just haul off and fucking slap your co-star. I was feeling it at that moment. Really? Oh, next, can we do one more? My character's feeling very feisty as well all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that would not fly nowadays, no matter who you are. They would have to like get your consent before they do that. But nevertheless, now they realize that the whales are out to sea. They've got to get a bearing on them. They have the radio frequency from Jillian. They find them, but unfortunately, there's already a whaling vessel that's getting a bead on them.
Now, we don't want to upset our Japanese overlords. So it isn't the Japanese. It's some Finnish boat near Alaska.
It seems that was a little far-fetched to me. It's like all of a sudden they're in they made it to these waters way far away from California.
Yeah. So a mile or so off of shore, that's territorial waters. It becomes international waters. Mm-hmm. But the protected water, 300 off the coast of Alaska. You can't whale there. So yeah, somebody should have cracked a book.
Probably. But we need, at least they didn't completely demonize the people on the whaling vessel. I mean,
what do you mean? Those people are pricks. They should be demonized. They should have blasted them. That would have been a better fucking outcome.
My point is, it would have been easy to have them all right, twirling their mustaches.
Yeah, well, Nimoy's not going to let anybody do that.
Right. So, and this also got a great reaction in the theater, is they get there just in time. They've sent a harpoon, that the whaling vessel got a bead on them. A harpoon goes out, and then gunk, it bounces off of something invisible. Hey, it's the ship decloaks right in front of this whaling vessel. And we've talked at length about how much we love the design of the Klingon bird of prey with those arms that look like a bodybuilder, flexing. That's the shot. That's the money shot here, because this ship is kind of hanging in the sky right in the path of this whaling ship, which completely turns tail with fear. I mean, I think I would probably have a heart attack, honestly, Father Malone, if that materialized right in front of me.
T-minus 10,000 meters. I think the Klingon ship should have just lowered slowly, pushed that whaling ship under the water, beamed up the whales, flown away.
It's a great, for some reason, I remember the shot.
Slow, grim death of these whalers.
Sinks under the water.
Screaming as the ship is gently nudged beneath the waves.
I remembered the shot of the Klingon ship hovering over the whaling vessel, with much more, with very thick matte lines, not looking that realistic when I saw it. But in rewatching it, I don't know if I was watching a remastered version of the movie. It looked fantastic. It looked much better than I remembered.
There's only one shot that I can call out with that Klingon ship where it's completely matte line arama, which is when they're approaching Earth for the first time. It's just a traveling box around the ship.
Oh, right. I know the shot you're talking about. Sure.
But so other than that, most of the effects are great, including the actual big money shot of the movie, which is the Golden Gate Bridge shot.
Yeah, no, totally. So they beam the whales aboard, and they're going to make another jump around the sun to try and save the future.
There be whales here. There be whales.
And that's maybe the most cringy scene for me of the whole movie is Kirk takes Jillian down to the cargo hold to see, quote unquote, her whales.
Oy.
And while they're watching
they
these
are
whales,
not the hell your whales.
Right. But Kirk starts throwing out these really cheeseball lines. He quotes he's like, they say the sea is cold, but it contains the hottest blood of all. Whales weep not. She knows the poem. And it's just like, that's when he throws out that line about, it's ironic that we killed these whales and we killed our planet's future, or whatever he says. It's like, come on. Don't hit us over the head with the message of this movie. And by the way, Kirk, don't throw yourself at this woman. It's unbecoming of you. You're fucking Captain Kirk. You're Casanova. What are you talking about?
Also, why didn't she say, what do you mean we hunted them to extinction? I thought we were just helping repopulate.
Wait a second.
Hold on, man.
She picked up on Spock's turn of a phrase when he was coming out of the whale tank. He said, remember she says she has a photographic memory? Because Spock said, if we assume the whales are ours to do with as we please, then we're no better than the ones who caused their extinction.
That is true. Okay, you're right. That's a non-issue. I remove that. I take it back.
There. Objection overruled, Father Malone.
Damn it.
So yeah, so we get
here.
And here's the thing. A lot is made of how dangerous time travel is.
It's all right.
But not only do they successfully do it once, they successfully do it a second time like it's nothing.
Get him back. Get him back.
Like, how do they, not only do they make it back perfect, they make it back at the exact moment
that they left.
Because at that moment, the Starfleet headquarters is kind of overtaken by the climate cataclysm. There's windows breaking and all this stuff happening. And that's when Sarek goes, look, and he sees the Klingon ship, which, by the way, I'm not sure that Starfleet would be expecting Kirk to come back in a Klingon bird of prey. Why aren't those people going, what the fuck is happening? Now the Klingons are attacking. What the hell?
I imagine anyone who was outside at that moment went, oh, now we're really fucked.
What the hell?
It's a Klingon invasion. That's what this actually is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I think the people in Starfleet knew Kirk had that ship. I mean, the Klingon ambassador says so. He's like, they stole a Klingon bird of prey.
Sure, but the civilians that are out and about are like, what the hell? Like, there's a Klingon now? Things weren't bad enough? So the ship, fortunately, the ship is buoyant because it crashes in the bay.
What a beautiful shot coming under that bridge. Come on, man. Give it up.
It is. But the problem is that they have to abandon ship, but the cargo hold where the whales are has to be manually opened.
Because they ain't got no power.
They get no power. Is that a Back to the Future?
Yeah, well, you brought up the Back to the Future timeline situation earlier, so I figured I'd call out Mr. Jason Lee.
Power. So, of course, Kirk, being the manly man that he is, he elects to dive down and manually open the hatch, which he does successfully in releasing the whales.
They should have let Uhura do it because she had nothing to do in the entire movie.
That's right. Uhura, you've been sitting around this whole movie. Why don't you do something? Make yourself useful. So the whales are released, and fortunately, somehow this... Now, here's the thing. In the movie, this was interesting when I read the trivia bit on this. Like, apparently, Harv Bennett, when the probe, quote unquote, speaks, Harv Bennett wanted subtitles to explain what it is that the probe was saying. And I think it was trying to say, where are you? I can't find something like that. But it was Leonard Nimoy who wisely said, no, that'll kill all the mystery. We don't know why the hell this probe is here, or what it wants to communicate. Why ruin that mystery for the moviegoers?
This is the end of the relationship for Leonard Nimoy and Harve Bennett, because Harve Bennett suggested that to the studio, and the studio hadn't really gone one way or the other, and were just trusting Nimoy, and then it became a conversation.
Did you know Harve Bennett and Leonard Nimoy died 2 days apart?
I wonder what that means.
I don't know, but it's certainly a piece of trivia.
It certainly is.
It's weird. Anyway, fortunately,
we don't find out. Thank God, man.
We don't.
Nimoy's right. Like, it's a mystery. Let it be a mystery. There's so few of them available to audiences. And did we need to know what was said? I mean, come on.
Oh, but it's actually a very beautiful message when you think about it, that these innocent creatures are actually helping to save the planet that has been so cruel to others of its species. So the probe and the whales apparently successfully communicate whatever
Plus,
it is.
It's nice to think that there's an alien intelligence out there coming to check up on you. You know?
Sure, because that's the thing. Earlier, Spock makes the point that whales have been around for millions of years before mankind, if you will. So who knows where this intelligence came from, where this probe originated? For all we know, whales might have been an alien dropped on the planet some 5 million years ago. We don't know. The mystery of the probe, what it is, where it came from, and what it wants, is central to the effectiveness of this plot, in my opinion. Because if you had this thing subtitled and you actually gave a real voice to this thing, it would have ruined it for me and for probably everybody else watching it.
Well, two things. It is a probe from a group of alien life forms, and they did not seed the galaxy with their kind, but they are periodically in charge of checking up on the known other types of their species.
But how did they get there?
I don't know. I don't know that story. I'm just telling you where the probe came from. It came from this particular race that likes to check up on their things. There's a book called Probe where Kirk and a Romulan ambassador or something have to go to the neutral zone. It's not really very good. But HP, are you familiar with the concept of the mirror universe?
Yeah, with Spock with the goatee, sure.
Do you know that there is a mirror universe version of the probe?
I thought you said there was we talked about this with the motion picture.
We talked about Voyager. There's a mirror that's Seeker. That's the mirror version of Voyager.
But there's a mirror version of the probe too?
Yeah, the Traveler, yes. And then Captain Spock of the Terran ship, the Enterprise, travels back to 1986, gathers 2 humpback whales, brings them forward in time, lets them communicate with the probe. Then, after hearing what the humpback whales have to say, armors them and gives them like high-tech weaponry. And then the whales wage war against the Terran Empire from both coasts, just destroying everything that they can get close to.
Are you being serious right now? That's a real story?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
Isn't that awesome? I've always thought of that as a possibility. It's like we see Spock mind meld with George or Gracie, Gracie, I guess. And he says, like, they're amenable. They don't like the way they're being treated, and they will help us. But because of the mystery of it, like, they could say, we're the last ones because they hunted us all and killed us all. Let us tell you what they have been doing to us for centuries. And this probe going, you're right. Why don't you come with us? We're going to continue to drain their ocean and fuck up their worlds.
Was that a book or was that a comic?
It was a comic book.
Okay. Was it called Mirror Universe? It was a whole series based on this.
Yeah.
Sounds really.
In fact, there are a bunch of Mirror Universe books too.
Well, I knew that they went back to the Mirror Universe for some of those paperback books that I talked about earlier. But the idea that they're going to all these old, it seems like what you're saying is they've gone to these old plots but they're giving it a twist by making them take place. It's like a what if for Star Trek, essentially.
Yeah,
What
but
if-
it's not a what if, because it's actually happening, because it is the mirror universe. So the events that we've seen are happening there, but with this weirdo twist to them.
Yeah, but technically, what if stories actually happen, but in some weird dimension, like alternate realities or alternate dimensions. So
I'm guessing you didn't watch Discovery.
No, I did not.
Discovery deals pretty heavy with the mirror universe.
Oh, okay.
In fact, one of the characters in the first season of the show, who's like a real big hero on the show, ends up like being a fucking a mirror universe escapee who's trying to take over ours. It's pretty great. And then the series fell into a pile of shit.
Well, it was on for a while, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's hard to maintain a level.
They had
of
one
quality.
good season with Pike and Spock, and for a second, James Kirk. But that was an alternate version of them. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
No worries. So they save the planet. The whales don't tell how cruelly they've been treated. Fortunately for Earth, the probe reconfigures itself, pulls that weird floating ball into itself, and then goes away. Again, I love the mystery of this vessel or creature or whatever the hell it is. And now they get back to the business of dealing with these charges being leveled against Kirk and his crew. This is kind of the postscript of the movie, the epilogue. They accept the charges, and all charges except for one, which I think was it insubordination or failure to follow a direct order, something like that. All charges except that are dismissed. And that one is leveled solely at Kirk. And his punishment is they're going to bust him down from admiral to captain, which is really not a punishment because this is what he's been bristling against for 3 movies now.
This is a promotion.
They're giving him what he wanted anyway. So it's like, sure, I'll take it. So then they're on a shuttlecraft. He and the crew are debating where they're going to be stationed, what ship, this or that, the Excelsior, where they're going to go. And then it's another one of these loving space dock sequences. And there you see they're coming up over one ship, and it's the Enterprise again.
There she is, the ship whom I love like a woman. That's from Futurama. It's the Enterprise 1701A. Now we've got the new numerals, we've got the letters, we've got the little. Here's the thing: did the Admiral on purpose just like not tell them that we're going to decommission the Enterprise because we've got a whole new one for you? Did he out of the room and just keep talking? And
you mean in part 3, you mean?
Yeah, in part 3, where he's like, no, you return to space dock for immediate decommission of the Enterprise. And he didn't follow it up with, because we have a whole new Enterprise.
Well, you would think maybe, but he's
because they didn't make that fucking thing overnight.
No, well, 2 things. One, he's pretty definitive where he says the Enterprise's time has passed. So that's the only thing that leads me to believe that at the time they had no intent of recommissioning or commissioning a new Enterprise. Number 2 is the Enterprise was effectively destroyed 3 months prior, the end of Star Trek 3, right? We know that timeline is pretty solid. So you're telling me inside of 3 months, they built a whole fucking ship that's ready for a shakedown cruise? It's crazy.
Yeah, no, the only logical explanation is that they were saying, bring it in because we've already got another one built.
Well, because it would have to take way more than 3 months. I agree that makes the most. That's Occam's razor. That's the simplest explanation. But the problem is he was so definitive, the Admiral, in saying, like, the Enterprise is done. Its time has passed. The Excelsior is now the new shit in the Starfleet.
I'm a little surprised they didn't give us some crazy new model at the end. I mean, they didn't have any money to build a new Enterprise and give us a new design or anything, but a little shocked.
Well, do you think here we just talked about the fact that this movie and then the Next Generation were kind of produced one after the other, essentially, right? Because Next Gen premiered in 87, right?
Yeah.
Is it possible that maybe they considered a new model ship, but then they said, well, what are we going to do for Next Gen? That's going to be a new version of the Enterprise. We can't have them use that. So maybe they stick with the old one. I don't know.
Oh, I'm sure they just said, we've got an Enterprise. We've got a beautiful model. We didn't have it for an entire movie. We can just use that one again. Thank you. Do you remember the shots that we reused from Star Trek 3 all through this movie of the Klingon bird of prey flying? Okay. Yeah. We're not spending any money on a new model.
Again, cost-cutting measures all over the place.
And that's it, man. Hooray. We're off to new adventures. The crew of the Enterprise. They're all together now. All together now.
This was I mean, like or hate this movie. I mean, I don't know anyone who hates it, but maybe people.
I know some Trek people who hate this movie.
Well, that's fair. What I was going to say was I can understand people who are very diehard, maybe thinking this wasn't in line with like a Star Trek 2. But you one thing you can't argue is that this was a very big movie for the franchise. This was a super popular movie. This did boffo box office. This could have been a sign of bigger and better things for the franchise.
It's a really good Star Trek movie for casual Star Trek viewers.
Sure.
Well, you don't need to know anything. It's all set up at the beginning, like as to where everyone is and what their place is. And you don't need to go too in depth into any of it. And they basically give it to you with the fucking ambassadors.
Well, even if
sequence. But all you need to know is the Enterprise and Kirk and Spock and McCoy and the crew of the Enterprise and Federation. That's it.
I'm sure they were very confident in the notion that even if you're not a diehard Trek fan, not a Trekker, Trekkie, whatever you want to call it, they had been in the pop culture for so long now that even if you didn't know even if you didn't watch the series itself, you know who Captain Kirk is. You know who Mr. Spock is. You might call him Dr. Spock and not realize the faux pas, but you know who these characters are. You kind of might know Uhura and Chekhov, Sulu and all that. So yes, the casual sort of fan could probably really get into this, but you don't really even have to be a casual fan of the show. I think it's in the pop culture air. It's in the zeitgeist. So I don't know anyone who didn't know in some way or shape or form about Kirk, Captain Kirk. Beam me up, Scotty. Who hasn't heard someone say that who wasn't a Trek fan? So, and by the way, this movie was what led to Shatner's performance on SNL with Khan, with the revolving restaurant where Dana Carvey played Khan, of course, and that was a great Get a Life. That was
Robert Smigel.
Yes, it's a classic, no question. But the same episode, he also did Get a Life. That was that awesome where they talked about the mirror universe in that one too.
Oh, that was Robert Smigel.
Who did the revolving restaurant then?
Probably Robert Smigel.
Probably Smigel. But that is a 1-2 punch of Trek skits that is as good as anything else that I've ever seen.
No sneeze guard on the salad bar.
Oh my God, Sulu! Turn around.
What happened to you? That Jim Yoshimura in both the original Belushi Star Trek and then again with Dana Carvey. He also actual did Shatner.
Well, didn't Chris Pine? He did a Star Trek skit. And I'm pretty sure he also was in that one too.
Jesus Christ, he's multi-generational.
Multi-timelines. Totally. It's insane. But anyway, personally, I've already said, even though Wrath of Khan is the best Star Trek movie, this is probably my favorite. What do you think, Father Malone?
I like it. I like it just fine. I think it's a nice, frosty sorbet, an amuse-bouche of a Star Trek movie. It's not too challenging. It has some funny moments. It has some fun. There's some good sci-fi stuff in it. There's the fucking Klingon ambassador is worth the price of admission, honestly. But I don't rate it as high as everyone else does, just because I like them in space in the 23rd century, exploring strange new worlds and seeking out new life forms and new civilizations. I like that kind of thing from this show called Star Trek.
Sure. No, but I think it was pretty genius in that it did bring in people who didn't have to be like diehard fans of the show or the other movies. It's very savvy to do that. Also, it encapsulated Leonard Nimoy's conservation ideals, save the whales, all that stuff. So I think it works on a lot of levels. I think its heart is firmly in the right place, and I think it works.
I think more than anything, I need to let the listeners know that earlier I said that Spock was wearing a stocking cap in a piece of the action, and that's incorrect. He wore the stocking cap in City on the Edge of Forever.
Edge of Forever. Yeah.
If you take away anything from tonight, ladies and gentlemen. You should know that I realized that mistake.
Well, kudos that you realized it and corrected it as opposed to like letting it sit and then kicking yourself after the fact.
I think that's Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, The Voyage.
Bon voyage,
Ooh,
Charlie Brown.
My goodness. I liked it. That's about all I got to say about it.
Okay.
Shout out to Paul Waller. What's going on, man? He listens to all these.
Fantastic. Hello.
Yeah, HP saying hi there. Next up is everyone's favorite Star Trek film. Certainly mine, certainly yours. Why are they installing seatbelts in movie theaters this spring, this May?
Was that in the trailer?
No, that was on the poster. That was on the teaser poster. And the teaser poster featured a movie theater seat floating in space with a seatbelt over it. Now, you're acting like you've never seen it before, but you and I saw it in that Northgate Mall theater out in the parking lot, that twin. It was a General Cinemas.
5 poster. Yeah. It's the seat is in Federation Red. I do remember this.
We saw that together, and I said, that's the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
That sounds like something you'd say. It's terrible.
Well, anyway, there's the preview for our next episode. We're going to be talking about Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. Oh my God. Oh, it is something. You know what? Having now read Shatner's account of the behind the scenes of that movie, I'm a little more lenient on it. I haven't sat down to watch it beginning to end yet. That's going to occur very soon after some more Strange New World, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's going to be our next episode. Until then, where can people find you when they're looking for you, Mr. HP? On Vulcan.
I co-host the Night Mr. Walters, a taxi podcast with you, Father Malone, or otherwise known as Midnight Viewings, Father Malone. And I host the Noise Junkies music podcast. Last but not least, I have a Bandcamp site, hpmusicplace.bandcamp.com.
As for me, you're listening to it. Hey, what's up? What's going on there? Patreon folk who are hearing this at least a month in advance. Thank you for all your support. That is greatly appreciated. And thank you all for listening, actually. I should point out that I say this a lot, I guess, but last month was our most downloaded month ever. It was insanely popular. Thank you, everyone, for doing that. Please keep sharing it and liking it and giving it a bunch of 4 stars and reviewing it and telling all your friends about it. Totally appreciate it. HP, we're at the end of the show. Have you composed the theme to the song that I sung earlier?
No, have not gotten to that yet, Father Malone, but...
Well, double dumbass on you. Here's Jane Weedland.